Subscribe now, if you're brave enough to keep watching. It was a quiet evening in the small town of Millbrook, where the cemetery sat at the edge of a sprawling forest. Emily had taken the same route through the woods countless times. She'd always found peace walking among the old headstones, each marking the lives of generations past. The trees stretched high, their skeletal branches creaking as the wind whispered through the leaves. On this crisp autumn evening, Emily had just finished her shift at the local cafe and was ready to get home. But that night, something felt different. The fog rolled in quickly, blanketing the ground in a heavy, suffocating mist. Emily squinted through it as she walked, her footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dampness on the ground. She felt uneasy, but she didn't want to admit it. After all, she had taken this route 100 times before, and nothing had ever happened. That was until she reached the middle of the cemetery. Suddenly, she stopped. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she felt a presence behind her. She turned quickly, but there was nothing, just the empty cemetery path and the shifting shadows of the gravestones. She brushed it off, muttering to herself, "It's just the fog playing tricks on you." But as she continued walking, a sudden chill filled the air. Her breath fogged in front of her as she exhaled. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. She pulled it out, only to see a message from her friend Emily. "Where are you? I'm worried about you walking through there alone, especially tonight." Emily typed a quick reply, telling her she was almost home, but as she hit send, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unknown number. She frowned but answered, thinking it might be a wrong number. But when she pressed the phone to her ear, all she could hear was static, followed by a whisper, barely audible but unmistakably clear. "Emily, turn back." Her heart skipped a beat. She spun around, her pulse racing. The cemetery was as empty as it had ever been, but the feeling of being watched intensified. She quickly stuffed the phone back in her pocket and began walking faster, eager to leave the Eerie cemetery behind. That was when the ground beneath her seemed to shift. She stumbled but caught herself on one of the gravestones. When she looked up, a shadow moved quickly past the corner of her eye. She froze, her blood running cold. In a flash, everything went silent. The world around her seemed to slow. The wind died, the trees stopped creaking, and the only sound was her rapid breathing. Her footsteps echoed unnaturally loud as she made her way toward the exit. But as she reached the old iron gates, she paused. Her breath caught in her throat. There, at the very edge of the cemetery, she saw two headstones she didn't recognize. They stood side by side, their worn engravings nearly unreadable in the fog. A strange compulsion gripped her, and despite every instinct telling her to turn around and leave, she stepped closer. It felt as if the fog was pulling her toward them. The air was thick, and the only thing that kept her moving was the nagging feeling that something was waiting watching. But she had no idea that this moment would be the last time she was ever seen. As the minutes ticked by, Emily disappeared into the fog. She never reached the exit of the cemetery. The camera on a neighbor's security system captured her last steps, and then, just like that, the image went static. There was no sign of struggle, no scream, no sign of her after that. The next morning, her car was found parked outside the cemetery. The engine was still running, the headlights casting eerie shadows on the fog-covered ground. But Emily was gone. Her phone was later recovered. At the base of one of the two headstones she had walked toward, still recording faint whispers that chilled the bones of those who heard it. And with that, the mystery of her disappearance began, one that would leave the town of Millbrook forever haunted. The cemetery, once a peaceful resting place, was now a chilling reminder of something more sinister lurking in the fog. The town of Millbrook was never the same after Emily's disappearance. The once peaceful cemetery, where families came to mourn their loved ones, became the center of suspicion and fear. Despite the local authorities' attempts to ease the public's growing anxiety, strange rumors began to spread, rumors of supernatural forces, a restless spirit, and mysterious happenings tied to the cemetery. As the days turned into weeks, the search for Emily intensified. Local authorities organized multiple search parties, combing every inch of the cemetery, nearby woods, and surrounding area. The police brought in dogs, drones, and even specialists in search and rescue. But each time, they came up empty. The fog that had rolled in the night of her disappearance never seemed to dissipate, and the mystery surrounding the case only deepened. No clues, no signs of struggle, just an eerie silence. Then came the unsettling discovery. One of the search teams stumbled across something near the edge of the cemetery, barefoot footprints, faint but clear, leading toward the same pair of headstones Emily had been seen walking toward the night she vanished. The strange part was that the footprints seemed to stop abruptly, as though Emily had simply vanished from the ground. No more footprints, no sign of movement, just the imprint of her last steps. There were no other signs to explain where she had gone. No trace of her in the nearby woods or the surrounding streets. The police scoured the footage from the local surveillance cameras, hoping to find any trace of what happened after Emily disappeared from view at the cemetery gates. They examined the footage from a neighbor's security camera, the last to record her movements. The footage was grainy, but there was something chilling about it. Emily had entered the cemetery at 10:47 p.m. and was seen walking between two headstones. But that was when the static began. For the next few minutes, the screen flickered uncontrollably, as if something was blocking the signal. The images jumped, distorted by the sudden interference. And then, the footage stopped altogether. The investigation team analyzed the recording for any anomaly, but nothing was immediately conclusive. However, when the footage was reviewed again under higher magnification, something caught the attention of the officer in charge. At 10:52 p.m., just 5 minutes after Emily had passed the two headstones, there was a brief momenta flicker in the video. A shadow crossed the screen. But it wasn't Emily. The shape was humanoid, but its outline was hazy, almost as though it was blending with the surrounding fog. The figure didn't seem to move. It stood motionless for a moment before disappearing completely from the camera's view. Then there was the phone. The police had found Emily's phone at the base of one of the gravestones, still recording. They couldn't understand how it had ended up there. It was almost as if the phone had been placed, carefully positioned at that specific spot. The last 2 minutes of audio were unnerving. The first sounds were indistinct, but as the recording continued, the sound of soft, almost inaudible breathing filled the airwaves. Then came the whispers. A voice faint, but unmistakable. It wasn't Emily's voice. It was a man's voice, distorted and low, murmuring something unintelligible. The final words, however, chilled the bones of everyone who heard them. "Turn around." The voice on the recording was not the voice of a person lost in the fog, trying to call out for help. It was something far more unsettling, an ominous, threatening presence that spoke as if it had been waiting for her, watching her every move. The police were no closer to understanding who or what had left the message, but the implications were enough to sigh, and a cold shiver down the spine of everyone involved in the case. As the days wore on, rumors spread throughout the town of Millbrook. Some whispered that the cemetery had always been a place of restless spirits, a place where the dead did not sleep in peace. Others claimed the fog that lingered in the area was the result of something unnatural, a lingering curse placed on the land years ago by unknown forces. But what was certain was that the disappearance of Emily had changed the town forever. Her family, devastated by the sudden and unexplained loss, began to lose hope as the investigation stalled. Local news outlets ran headlines about the case, and online forums speculated wildly about what had really happened that night. But the more the investigation deepened, the more it seemed that the truth was slipping further out of reach. In an eerie twist, a few weeks after the search efforts had slowed, another piece of evidence surfaced. A resident of the town, out for an evening walk, stumbled across a small piece of torn fabric lodged in a fence near the cemetery. The fabric was a familiar shade matching the jacket Emily had been wearing that night. This discovery sent the investigation into overdrive again. But the question lingered. Why had Emily's jacket been torn off? And where had she gone after she vanished from the camera's view? The mystery only deepened, with no answers in sight, and no one able to explain what happened to Emily in the fog of that cemetery. But the eerie feeling lingered, just as the fog did, creeping across the town like a silent witness to a crime that no one had seen and no one would ever fully understand. The investigation had come to a standstill, but the eerie whispers surrounding Emily's disappearance never ceased. The fog that had enveloped the cemetery that night seemed to linger in the air, as if the very land itself held onto the secret of what had happened. It had been weeks since the search had been called off, but the residents of Millbrook remained on edge, their once peaceful town now shadowed by the mystery of the vanished woman. Then, one evening, the local authorities received a call that no one expected. A teenager, walking his dog along the outskirts of the cemetery, had stumbled across something remarkable, something that would change everything. At the far end of the cemetery, near an old, dilapidated mausoleum, the teen had found a small, hidden trap door leading underground. When he had pried it open, he discovered a hidden basement beneath the cemetery, buried deep under the soil, concealed from the prying eyes of anyone who didn't know where to look. It was strange, the teenager explained, that something so out of place was there, right under the peaceful resting place of so many deceased souls. The police arrived on the scene within minutes, their flashlights illuminating the hidden underground room. Inside, it was cold and damp, the air stale, carrying the unmistakable smell of earth and decay. But what they found was far more unsettling than the state of the room. The walls were lined with old photographs sold, black and white portraits of people who had once lived in Millbrook, most of them unrecognizable, faded with time. At the center of the room stood a large, ornate mirror, its surface cracked and coated with dust. As the officers examined it closely, a horrifying realization struck. The photographs in the room weren't just random. They matched the faces of those who had disappeared from Millbrook over the years. As they dug deeper, they uncovered an old journal, bound in cracked leather. The pages were yellowed and worn, but the handwriting inside was legible. It belonged to a man named Gregory Alden, a name no one in the town had recognized. According to the journal, Alden had been the cemetery caretaker long before the town had expanded into the suburbs. And what he had written down was far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Alden had written about a secretan, old, forgotten ritual that had been passed down among the caretakers of the cemetery for generations. The ritual was said to bind the living to the cemetery, to allow their souls to become part of the land itself. The ritual was performed during the full moon, and only those willing to accept the curse could be a part of it. Anyone who participated would be trapped in the cemetery, their souls doomed to wander the earth forever, their bodies left to rot in the ground. Alden's writings spoke of how the fog that rolled in during the night was not natural, it was a manifestation of the curse, drawing those who walked into its grasp. The officers pieced the story together. The mirror was part of the ritual, a reflection of the lost souls bound to the cemetery. It had been placed in the hidden room as a way to trap those who ventured too far into the mystery, to force them into eternal silence. The photographs were not just memories of the past. They were victims, their spirits forever captured in the cemetery, lost between worlds. As the police continued to explore the underground room, they found something else. In the corner, buried beneath a pile of decaying leaves and dirt, was a set of old bones. They weren't animal bones, nor were they from any of the deceased buried there. The bones were fresh, disturbingly recent. It was as though someone had been using the room to perform rituals long after the cemetery had been abandoned, by caretakers. But then came the most horrifying discovery. One of the bones was missing a ring wedding band. A wedding band that matched the description of the ring Emily had been wearing on the night she disappeared. Suddenly, the realization hit the authorities. Emily hadn't just disappeared. She had been part of something much darker. She had become a part of the curse, her spirit bound to the cemetery, just like the others before her. And the last call her, phone ringing from the cemetery, with the distorted whispers, wasn't just a random occurrence. It was the mirror's way of calling her back to the cursed land. As the investigation continued, Emily's family was devastated by the truth. Her parents, who had held on to hope that their daughter was still alive, were now faced with the undeniable reality of what had happened. Their daughter was gone, trapped in a place no one could reach, lost to the curse that had haunted Millbrook for generations. And as the years passed, the cemetery was left undisturbed, shrouded in an eerie silence. The fog never truly dissipated. The townspeople knew better than to venture near the gates after dark, and every now and then, when the moon was high and the air thick with mist, a faint whisper could be heard, echoing from the cemetery. Turn back. Emily's disappearance became just one more mystery lost to time. Another unsolved tragedy in a town cursed by its own forgotten past. And though some may still try to explain it, there are few who dare to speak the truth. Once you cross the line between the living and the dead, there is no going back. The end. Subscribe now if you dare to uncover the terrifying truth.